Hello everyone. In this video, I want to tune into the upcoming lunar eclipse. So eclipses always happen on the nodes. And what's interesting about this eclipse is that we have a stellium of planets in Scorpio on the south node. From the first eclipse a couple weeks ago, the solar eclipse, to the lunar eclipse, all of these planets are moving through Scorpio. And you can actually see these planets moving in two distinct phases. The first phase is before the south node. They're approaching a conjunction to the south node. And the second phase is after the conjunction with the south node. And all of these planets are basically moving from one phase to another within this eclipse window. So since the first solar eclipse, pretty much all of these Scorpio planets have moved past the south node. At the time of this video, we have the sun, we have Mercury is about to pass over the south node, and then I think by then all of the planets will have passed. That's one phase. Now, once all of the planets have crossed that south node threshold, then they all square Saturn, which is also squaring the nodes. So this translates to a very powerful, very intense, very deep soul process. And let's translate some of these energies. First, just recognizing an eclipse season where the south node is in Scorpio means a lot of the work that we're going to be doing naturally will point us to some of our deepest psychological fears, the places that are scariest within us. So one thing to understand about Scorpio is it corresponds to the areas that are predominantly unconscious, some of our deepest security fears, where we're going to resist looking inside. Just as much as Scorpio will correlate to where there's a sort of courage to look inside and see the things that are uncomfortable to see. We can all, in our own ways, identify both with that fear and resistance to looking within, and thus sort of a compulsive psychology that results. And then the courage to look inside and be willing to face it all. That's sort of the tension within the Scorpio archetype. It's about resistance or cooperation, or the willingness to really meet what's inside or to stay in resistance. Now, staying in resistance is really uncomfortable. It hurts. It's painful. And we can have times like this that no matter how wonderful we might be at doing our work, there's more to do. And it's just a fact of this human journey that there are more layers. And I think there's a compassionate awareness to just bring forward that when more layers emerge, that which we haven't fully met, that which we haven't seen yet, that which we haven't faced, it's uncomfortable. And a lot of this discomfort will resonate with a particular quality of feeling that our core security is being undermined. And let's just not take these words lightly. For our core security to be undermined, it's the scariest thing we can possibly be faced. Our core attachments, our core fears, that which we don't want to actually look at, that which we don't actually want to experience. Feeling that our power or our security, or that which we need, is being taken from us. And of course, that's not true, right? It's just pointing to our attachments, which point to our identifications, who we think we are, what we've come to value, where we've come to source a sense of security and power. But in this state of threat, the ego construct is always going to find a way to work around it, right? The immediate response from a place of fear and feeling threatened will be to strategize life experience one way or another. So just to feel secure, to feel safe. Now we have the sun, we have Venus, we have Mercury. These are all very personal planets, right? We can be negotiating with other people, with relationships, with various choices. It's like choosing between two illusions, really. Anytime we're in a stressful, fearful state and we're trying to negotiate answers or make choices, really what we're trying to do is figure out, how can I organize my reality adequately enough that I won't feel fear anymore. And I think we find that these attempts might provide some sort of short-term security, but it doesn't ever really address the core issue. Right? I mean, the analogy for this, sticking with the true essence of Scorpio, the toilet's clogged. And we can find a short-term solution and cover it up, or put another potty in there, find another place to go to the bathroom. But without actually addressing the clog, the toilet will remain clogged, and it will continue to build the smell, and it will be unpleasant. So what's happening with all of these planets in Scorpio, there's a profound emphasis where we might actually feel like we're being pushed to address the clog. And so again, just to have that compassionate awareness, it's not easy, it's not comfortable. When we're really in the soul process, and I was thinking of this yesterday, just being with some of the pieces that I'm with right now, it's always true that when we face this content, we're going to feel threatened. We're not going to feel good. Now, we might get very skillful at meeting that in a state of presence and quietness, and to sort of go within and look deeper. But regardless, there is that moment of meeting it is an unpleasant moment. And I think for most of us, that unpleasant moment might be a long moment. It might take a while. We might find ourselves holding on to it and trying our best to find our way around our suffering, to find our way around the discomfort. And there's an inevitability. It's not just dealing with the inevitability of change, the inevitability of loss, the inevitability of impermanence. It's dealing with the inevitability of our own awakening. And so there comes a point where we're impelled to look for a deeper insight, a deeper awareness, a deeper understanding. Something that isn't superficial. Something that's not going to just make us feel good right now. Something that will take us to the root, to the core. And I think with Mercury involved in particular right now, so close to the South Node, there's like an investigation going on. I often speak about Mercury and Scorpio as turning the mind inward, looking at our own thoughts, looking at our own fears, looking at our own obsessions. And one of the things that I'm just wanting to say in this video is, I find what's really helpful to not get stuck in the pain, the agony of facing change, really. Facing something that we didn't want to see in ourselves. It's really all about that. A helpful piece is to just be honest about it all. Right? Not to run necessarily towards a solution, but to be very honest about, this is what I'm afraid of. This is what I'm concerned with. What I find for myself is it actually takes a lot of either writing about it, talking about it in a very grounded way, or a lot of being very quiet, just to access some of the deeper threads of what's really going on. Like there's a superficial level of my concerns or my reactions or the stories that I have. But if I just take a little more time with it, hold a stance of curiosity and openness, and it's really great if we are able to find an avenue of communication or expression, even if it's just with ourselves. We find that there is a little bit of an opening in that space of curiosity to just not jump on the first bandwagon to describe why it is we're feeling what we're feeling. We'll start to locate, oh, this is my fear. Oh, this is the core issue. And it all begins to unravel. Until we get there, we are navigating between illusions, trying to choose between illusory ideas, impermanent possibilities that won't provide true satisfaction. When we get to the core, I think it's easier to see from a more compassionate, wise, understanding perspective that isn't conflicted. We can sort of take life less lightly, flow with change and circumstance, and understand that what's most important is our coming back to ourself, is our remembering, right? Is our awakening. So this is a blessing and a prayer that I share with all of us during this time, that we just know that this is a part of the cycle, that we can ground and find more stillness, just to really be honest with what's happening. And Mercury, our thoughts about everything, how we're organizing our reality. Venus, this impacts our deepest sense of self-value, of self-esteem, and our relationships, and all the content that's kind of emerging here. And then Sun is really the focalizing, centralizing force of life. And things happening with the Sun are very, very essential. It's sort of where everything's being focalized and integrated. So now, as this has all been building as the planets move to the South Node, they pass the South Node, and it's sort of like, okay, here's the content, now you begin to integrate it. And I think as this eclipse happens, it's really going to be focalizing, here's the stuff you're working with. Don't be afraid to face it. Let us not be afraid to face it. Let us not be afraid to open to where the journey wishes to take us, and to remember that it's not about controlling circumstance. It's really about finding greater peace and understanding within ourselves. And as it all moves to square Saturn, I think that's when we're going to see a lot of more crystallization and constructive integration of all of this. And of course, that invites a lot of self-reflection, a lot of deeper awareness. So that can be difficult. That can feel heavy. And I think there's a great opportunity for growth and just greater healing, greater awareness during these times. So wishing us all lots of peace and stability and courage during this really powerful eclipse window time. Thank you for watching.